Zeke, are you there?
Yes, I am, Sean.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. I've been listening to the show.
Oh, good. So you've had to endure some dead air, I would imagine, right? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your website, which is powerpolitics.com. You're a Constitution guy, right? I have a quote from you in which you said, "Paper money fuels the statutory schemes or fake laws, while gold and silver fuel Constitution and common law." Tell us about how you've come to learn so much about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, common law, the Magna Carta. What makes you tick?
Born and raised on a Navy base. My dad was an engineer. He worked for the government. So my friends' parents were scientists, and so inquiring mind, maybe. Well, my mom started working for the Democratic Party when we were young in the 60s, 1960, and but she said that she didn't like the politics of it. It wasn't the way it was. She called a spade a spade. She was an American, and when she got into the club, so to speak, they have their hierarchy and how you're supposed to act and do, and so she didn't really go for that. So again, that's kind of showing, and I'm starting to be an outcast in a sense, because the way my parents are thinking. Then in 68, 66, I guess it was, my parents went at all natural foods and organic. Now, to do that in those days was pretty heavy duty.
Yeah, pretty forward thinking. Back in the day, that's pre-GMOs, pre-Monsanto criminal empire. Those are
exactly.
Yeah. So they were dialed into the organic movement before it was even called organic.
There you go. Yep, we were getting organic food, and my mom was, we'd get it, and she'd get enough for it to sell to health nuts. Only the health nuts came to our house on the base and bought, fresh vegetables and stuff. So there we are doing that, and, I was just a thinker, and...
Tell me about your parents, though. They were tax protesters, you said, and it kind of woke you up to the fact that, we have essentially two governments here at work. We have the constitutional government, and if the Constitution were followed, we'd be in pretty darn good shape. But we also have a secret government, a separate government, a government which is not beholden to the Constitution.
Okay, but let's start right there. That secret government. I mean, I know there's the secret government, the secret government, but really, it's our government. And the government, when you say the Constitution is the government. Now, there's three separate powers to this government. And they're equal and they're separate. That's what makes our government totally unique. So before this, all governments had a king. And the king had all three of those powers: the legislative power, the executive power, and the judicial power. So what made our country unique is we separated those powers. So one person didn't have it all. So the secret government really is the legislative power. Because the legislative power is the power to legislate.
That's right. Well, and let me just add, right? So what you're saying is that the government is the people. What happens when the government makes a law that is unconstitutional? Isn't it therefore by nature of it being unconstitutional, null and void?
No, well, it's not unconstitutional because they wrote it. See, that's what we just heard with this Judge Napolitano. He said that the Patriot Act, the Patriot Act allowed them they wrote in the Patriot Act that they can spy on us, So that, it makes it legal, but it's also unconstitutional. So now you got the double speak again. So the legislature, but here's the thing, every law they make, it's not unconstitutional because it is really only made to apply to the people that they control, or so to speak, or that are under them. Say, the ones that voted for them. That's, if you vote, you're just encouraging these people. If you vote, you signed up. So really, it's for government agents. All the laws written by the legislature, which are not laws. See, they call them laws, but are they really laws? No, they're bills and they're resolutions. And then they are for the people they're for. In government. Now then, when they give a bill or a resolution over to the president, he's the executor. So he executes those bills and those resolutions. And he's supposed to execute them on the people they're supposed to be executed upon. So if he puts it on to someone who's not supposed to be, the law isn't unconstitutional, it's unconstitutionally applied. Okay, so now then you go to the other side, which is the judicial power. That's us, the people. Okay, so each one of us technically is the Supreme Court justice. And the judicial power of the United States is vested in the one Supreme Court. Now, this one Supreme Court is the Article 3 court. It's the constitutional court. And then it says in there that Congress can make inferior courts. So all those courts that Congress created, which are all the courts around the country, both state and federal, those are inferior courts. They're called legislative courts. And really, that is the secret government because they regulate the commerce. So they've declared everything to be in commerce. So now they're making laws for the commerce. So the question is are you in commerce? Am I in commerce? Because if we are, then we're regulatable. But see, we were taught as Americans that we're rugged individualists. See, because there are no we. The minute you go we, then you've created a group.
Yeah, a collective, that's right. And it's easy to control the collective.
Yes, because there is only one collective that rules the world, and that's the Congress collective. You can't beat them, but except one way you can beat them, individually. Say, individually, we have the power to override any of their quote-unquote laws.
But let me ask you, how do we do that? First of all, let me see. Peter and Rory, are you on the line?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Wow. Success. Okay. And so far, everything seems to be going well with Skype. So thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Get your questions ready for Zeke. We have him for another probably close to 15 minutes. So, Zeke, let me ask you, though, how do we beat these people individually when they've really usurped our power? They have the power of the military. They really have the power of the press with this corporate-controlled Mockingbird media. How do we possibly opt out? Because even as it relates to paying your taxes, they will put you in prison, you know, or arrest you at gunpoint if you choose not to pay into their system. How does an individual help take their personal power back?
Well, the power is exercised in the court, okay? So you have to know what a court is. And a court is anywhere that an issue is settled, inside, outside. It's where the issues are settled. It's a court. The court is the suit of the sovereign. So that's us. Wherever we go, we're the court. Okay, so how do we solve the problem? We can't go generally, we go specific. So as one of my mentors said, you can do whatever you want to do if you can take the heat in court. And see, so the system now, and because I went through it, like you said, oh, you pay your taxes, pay your taxes, pay your taxes. What are you going to do? They're going to come and get you. Well, you know, like you had Joe Bannister on last time.
Right.
He told us at the end, he said, well, it's hard to beat them because they got this big administrative law stuff.
Oh, that's right. He said, and the last thing they want is for you to get to court. They want you they want to preempt anything you try to do way before you get to court.
Exactly, because that's where the remedy is, in court. Now, the thing about the court is, and it's where you're exercising your judicial power. They're not the legislative power, the judicial power. And this judicial power has jurisdiction over all cases, law and equity. Okay, so you've got to understand this law and equity, because equity is kind of the other foot to law. It's the law, it doesn't do anything. You just write a law. You know, it's fixed. You can't do this, you can't do that. You know, you have to do this, you have to do that. And when you go to court, you just get fined. See, the law only gives damages after the fact, and it's money damages. Whereas equity, you can make these guys do something. or not do something.
But don't you also have to understand what our friend Popeye over at federaljack.com talks about a lot, word magic? Don't you have to understand where you are and who you're beholden to when you're in a quote-unquote court? I mean, what does court mean? You're in their court. You're under their domain and their control.
Exactly.
What power do you have when you're in their court?
Your court.
Well, is it, or is it the court of the British Empire by extension? I'm not even sure.
No, this is the point. This is the point. Wherever the court is, wherever I am, I bring my court with me. Okay, and so then if I get in court with them, so to speak, okay, then we're both in court. And you do have to know, because when they take you into court, who's the they? See, because who technically is the plaintiff? Let's say traffic ticket or something, or IRS. Who's the plaintiff? Okay, the plaintiff is going to be the people of the state or the people of the United States. Okay, well, there's your fiction right there, and there's where you got to know. Oh, wait a minute, you can't take me to court because you don't have a claim. Who's got the claim? See, where's the individual that's making this claim that I did something? Okay, well, the cop kind of says it, and the district attorney prosecutes it, and the judge is up there going along with the game, and it's the shell game. So you got to know the shell game.
That's right.
And so now when you say, how do you stop them in their court, actually you can attempt to, which I've made many attempts with motions, and then there's we can exercise what's called writs, which are common law, prohibition and mandamus, but even those are supposed to work, but they may not work. And what you have to do is you use that equity I was telling you about, and you go out and you go back to the court in just a regular superior court or whatever, and you do what's called a collateral action, and you put a restraining order on them. See, the remedy is getting a restraining order on the government and the government agents. That's what I found, and it's done.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, but you need an honest judge for that, right? Because the judges that are bought and paid for aren't going to give you a restraining order on the IRS as they come to collect what they're calling your unpaid back taxes.
Well, but wait a minute. You got to remember, when you bring your case, the judge, he has some discretion. Okay, and he cannot give it to you, and that's fine, because you have what's called an appeal or a mandamus. See, and to make them, you can put in a court in a mandamus, which is make them do it, and then the upper court will make the judge do what you want him to do. See, eventually, and this is the other layer of it's just a layer, a filter. Yeah, like you said, oh, you're going to lose. See. But when I put in my case, I go, yeah, I can lose, but it's going to really make that judge look bad, because there's no reason why he shouldn't give me my restraining order. See, because in order to get a restraining order, you have to make an affidavit, a declaration that you're being injured, irreparably injured, and the key here is that you don't have any remedy at law. So now you're telling the judge, you come on my side, judge. You get over here, because this particular process, you're on my side, because the plaintiff always wins. If you think about it, in any court case, how can he lose? He's coming to court swearing the truth, and why would he come to court unless he was injured or damaged? See? So that's why it's an automatic win when you're a plaintiff. And that's why they always win, because they're using the same process on us, really, when a cop stops you. But see, now, what gives the cop authority over us? Okay, well, how about the presumption you're driving? Okay, so now we get into the word game. Do you know what drive means? To drive a motor vehicle, it means that you're operating it for hire, compensation, or profit. It means you're doing a commercial activity, like being a taxi driver, or limo, or a big hauler with these big trucks. Now those guys need to be regulated, because they're in commerce, and we need to have them controlled so that we can travel freely, unrestricted. See, so why would we need a driver's license if we weren't driving?
Sure.
Okay?
The power of words is lost on most people, especially as the average American continues to be dumbed down and their vocabulary restricted and their education maybe less educational than it used to be. We're talking with Zeke Layman from powerpolitics.com, and unfortunately we only have maybe 5 to 7 minutes left. Zeke, what would you suggest people do who want to learn more about you or more about these complex issues? They can visit powerpolitics.com, but is there any materials that you would direct them to?
Well, I get asked that question a lot. It's hard, read the Black's Law Dictionary. Look at it, understand that there's two definitions for each word. They put them into categories, legislatively or judicially. The commerce is how they're doing it. Learn what commerce means. Learn about the money. See, that's what when you guys are talking about gold and silver, and when they say silver, I keep laughing when they say it's so many dollars. See, because what's happening is people always conflate the concept of silver as a commodity or silver as a currency. Okay, and they're two different things. And a dollar is the most misunderstood word, in the world, and no one knows what it is. A dollar is a unit of measure. It's not a thing. A dollar is an amount of gold or silver, and it's fixed by weight. It's 0.72 of an ounce. Okay, so, a dollar of silver and an ounce of silver, now how many dollars per ounce? Well, wait a minute, there's $1.2 per ounce every time. Okay, now if you want to we want to say a dollar bill. What's a dollar bill? These notes, these aren't dollars, they're receipts for dollars. And because they're in circulation, it appears like the whole money system supply is doubled. And now they're printing up more notes than they have the silver to back them. That's just flat out lying. It's just a lie. These bills are a lie. What's written on the note, it's worthless. It's a debt, but it isn't even a debt because it's not even a valid contract. It used to say it was redeemable on it. In lawful money at the United States Treasury or at any Federal Reserve Bank. So now they're not doing that since '65. So it's a lie. Okay, there we go. Now but what are you going to do? So in court, we don't want the lie. We don't need the money. We want to protect ourselves from the government with restraining order. And then after that, maybe we can get quote unquote damages, but our damages are going to come in these dollars of silver.
Well, we agree with you about the silver and the gold, I'll tell you that. And we all know, anybody listening right now is informed enough to know that there was a time not in the far too distant past when, on the certificates, it did say redeemable in silver or redeemable in gold on demand at your local bank. And the banks actually had those precious metals in the vaults. They don't anymore, and they haven't had those precious metals in the vaults for decades. And now it looks like the central banks don't even have those metals in the vaults because they've all been promised out with the same type of paper promises, and now those paper promises are being called in, and the cartel banks don't have the metals. We're talking with Zeke Layman from powerpolitics.com, a very interesting guy who we will need to have on again when we have more time. Rory, before we lose Zeke, you've been paying attention here. Do you have a quick question? If you were listening and you're going to provide a question that certainly our audience must be wondering, how to take the Constitution back, how to take our country back, what would your question be?
Well, it would be all of those, and the one thing that I'm really curious about is Zeke is there someone in any city USA regarding this information, as far as and specifically about the militarization of the local police? Would you say that going to either the sheriff's office or the state attorney general, the mayor's office, police chief, where would a person start to collect information about what's going on with them locally in regards to, because from my perspective, that's a direct violation of the Constitution. I'm just curious as to what you would suggest or what you know about this.
Well, I kind of understand your question. It's tough because, the sheriff is the head common law power, and he represents us. But it's really each individual. We all have to be sovereign. You know, America made the rugged individualist, and we don't participate in the commerce. We don't use their currency as money. We use it as trash. We trade with it. So, you know, the district attorney, he's the opposite. He's representing the fake person. You know, the highest fake person be the county itself. And, you know, you can talk to these guys because they do understand a lot of it. And now the way the way it is, it's different than it was when I got into this in the 80s, because they all knew. And we came and confronted them, and they all took it personally, I think. And we didn't know what we knew, and we were correct, but they told us we were wrong, and they hammered us and you know, tried to flood us with, you know, court case, just, you know, put us in jail and stuff like that, because they were scared. But now, you know, it's evolved. It's still the same thing. You got no rights. You can't this, you can't that. So it's really, you got to do it individually. You know, you got to cut out eating crap. You know, that's all. You got to quit eating the crap and eat good food. You got to quit buying the bullshit. That's what Sean's show's about. You know, you guys are doing it, and we have to but we can take it to the next level individually by going to court and actually controlling these guys, because that's where you take the heat or you give the heat is in the court, because it's judicial power, and the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So that's what you want to remember. That's where it is. And to make everything constitutional, we got to do it ourselves. I think that's kind of the answer.
Yeah, that's spot on. And you know, nobody has maybe a better understanding of the value of the Bill of Rights than our buddy Peter, who I know is a God-fearing man. And you know, as we're told, our rights in this republic are given to us by God. Therefore, no man can take away for our rights. Our rights are natural rights. We're born with these rights, and no man can take them away. Peter, before we lose Zeke, do you have a question? Or maybe we lost Peter. I don't know what it is with Skype today. We did lose Peter. Zeke, you were going to say something there in closing.
See, the thing about rights is, and that's important, there's some important things about rights. You don't have those rights, whether they're from God or the Constitution or anything, unless you assert them. See, this is the key to the rights. It's asserting the right. And furthermore, you have to view these rights as property. Rights are property. That's why they're controlled in the court, when you can use the equity process called injunction. So that's how we can restrain the cops from violating our rights. And that's what the Fourth Amendment is. See, it says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects shall not be violated. So these guys are not to violate our right to be secure. It's a property right, and we can restrain them from doing it.
Wow.
Well, I love your perspective, and I'll tell you what. There's something to be said for the internet and this social networking that happens, which is sometimes beyond our control to the degree that I didn't know Zeke before he reached out to me, and I checked out his website, and we got him in the schedule today for an interview. You can learn more about Zeke Layman and everything that he stands for and what you should be standing for, which are your natural-born rights, over at powerpolitics.com. Zeke Layman, thanks so much for reaching out, and thanks for joining us today on Unbound Radio.
Well, thanks for having me, Sean. I really enjoyed it.
Well, we're sorry we didn't have more time with you, but we'll get you back in the lineup maybe sometime in October or November, and you can just email me, and we'll get you hooked up with Rory. He's our schedule keeper, and we'll make that happen.
Sounds great.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, Rory.
Wow.
There was so much to talk about there, and I think we just barely hit the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I would agree. And the thing is that I now understand a little bit better as to why the powers that be are frightened out of their mind of sovereign citizens, because a sovereign citizen understands his full rights, and the rights are properties, as Zeke just described. That is a real eye-opener for me.